Welcome to Kush News, the newscast of the African diaspora. I'm your anchor, Ochanda, daily bringing you the top stories from Africa and the Caribbean. Let's take a look at today's news on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. Let's go to Kenya, where pay increases have stopped. Proposed salary increases for members of Kenya's government will not happen after President William Ruto ordered a review of the plans following public outcry. This comes a week after mass protests forced Dr. Ruto to drop a controversial finance bill that included tax hikes. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission chairperson said on Wednesday that the commission would quote-unquote freeze the salary increases for state officers due to the current realities of the economy. Initially, the salary increases was of between 2 and 5% for all state officials, including judges. People online began questioning how the salaries of politicians, including governors, could be raised when there was supposed to be a financial crisis in the country. The U-turn came after the discussions with the National Treasury. Last year, the Salary Commission issued a notice proposing that the increases take effect from the beginning of this month. But the Public Service Minister, Moses Kuria, said that he would not implement the increases as applies to the cabinet.
I will not adjust. I will not add anybody's payroll for the national government. I expect judiciary to do the same because they have got an independent commission. I expect Parliament, because they have an independent commission, to also do the same. But everybody in the national executive, please forget, as long as I'm the minister, forget in the salary increment.
Dr. Ruto abandoned plans to increase taxes after protesters complained that they could not afford to pay them, as they were already hit by the sharp increases in the cost of living. Many said that the government should first reduce spending. Several lawmakers, including Aaron Cheriot, a senator in the ruling coalition, have called on the parliament to reject the pay increase.
This thing has reached, Mr. Speaker. It needs an overhaul. I am afraid that not the usual glue and gum that we put into areas that are leaking will solve this time. It's completely broken.
If it was working, some of the ministers in office today would not be ministers. They became ministers because a corrupt parliament allowed them to become ministers, and then the DPP followed it up by withdrawing their cases.
His colleagues in the government benches joining in the fray as they led an offensive against their own government, training their guns on the Inspector General of Police.
That the Inspector General of Police must be called out for failing to provide leadership, Mr. Speaker, for failing to morally and legally even update the country on security situations, Mr. Speaker.
During the deliberations, Parliament's wastage, planned and misuse of public resources was laid bare.
There is 377,000 Kenyan shillings on my ETC. Members of Parliament, the staff of Parliament have to be honest with Kenyans. In the way the budgets of Parliament are prepared, there are ways and means of reducing the expenditure in this house in a manner that will reduce the burden on taxpayers. I honestly do not need all that money. Even if I ran up and down the expressway for a year, I would never exhaust 370,000 Kenyan shillings.
The senators coming up with their own demands to President William Ruto, including scrapping the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Dissolve cabinet, reconstituted. Mr. President, disband offices outside the Constitution, including CAS, including Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Reduce the size of your cabinet from 21 to 14, the minimum. Merge departments. Reduce the number of principal secretaries from 51 to around 30. The size of the cabinet in the US is 15. With a population of more than 340 million people.
Last week's protests, led by young people, were the biggest in Kenya since Ruto came into power in 2022. The demonstrations have since morphed into calls for his resignation and demands that the security forces face justice over the killing of protesters. It's estimated that 39 people have been killed in the protests over the last 2 weeks. On Tuesday, the protests appeared to degenerate into anarchy as shops and supermarkets have been looted. Police have published images of 38 people wanted for engaging in lawlessness. Some of the young Kenyans linked to organizing the protests allege that hired goons had infiltrated the demonstrations. They said that they were reassessing their strategy and even thinking of calling off the protests altogether. Those in Kenya, let us know your thoughts on the pause or freeze of salary increases for your guys' government officials. What do you think? Let's go to Egypt, where a new cabinet has been formed. Egypt's new cabinet was sworn in on Wednesday in Cairo as the country faced an ailing economy and raging conflicts in neighboring nations. The new cabinet, chaired by the prime minister, includes major changes, particularly in the defense of economy related portfolios. The change comes as the country faces mounting public discontent after years of economic mismanagement, also including the coronavirus pandemic and the fallout with the wars happening in Europe and the Middle East. In addition, a Western backed reform program has caused prices to soar due to certain measures. Nearly 30% of Egyptians currently live in poverty, according to the official figures. The measures are meant to combat balloon inflation and attract foreign investment. This comes as attacks by Yemen's Houthis on shipping routes in the Red Sea have deeply hurt revenue from the Suez Canal. Another main point of contention is the reoccurring power cuts during the soaring heat of the summer in the country of over 106 million. As conflicts rage in neighboring Gaza, Libya, and Sudan, Egypt's portfolio is of diplomatic leadership, and Egypt being a foreign partner for these countries. The ministries, their deputies, and provincial governors took the oath in the presidential palace in Cairo. The new cabinet includes 4 women and several technocrats. This comes after 3 months after El-Sisi was sworn in as president for Egypt on his 3rd term. The former defense minister was first reelected president in the mid-2014 and then reelected again in 2018. Those in Egypt. Let us know about your thoughts on the new cabinet switch up. I know that you guys have been facing crises in the past. Let us know if you feel that this new cabinet will take you guys forward. Let's go to the Caribbean. And there we go to Grenada, where the prime minister looks at the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell has described the devastation of Curacao and Petite Martinique by Hurricane Beryl as reminiscent of the biblical Armageddon. Mitchell toured both islands on a helicopter yesterday to get a first-hand view of Hurricane Beryl's impact. Beryl made landfall on July 1st as a strong Category 4 hurricane. The National Disaster Management Agency said that over 90% of the buildings on the 2 islands are either damaged or destroyed. The Prime Minister said that it will be a long time before both islands recover from both their natural environment and man-made infrastructure damage.
Since yesterday afternoon, we've had very little communication with Carriacou and Petite Martinique. It was not until this morning that I was able to speak with Minister Tevin Andrews by satellite phone. The situation is grim. There is no power. There's almost complete destruction of homes and buildings on the island. The roads are not passable, and in many instances they're cut off because of the large quantity of debris strewn all over the streets, and obviously the danger posed by down power lines. Minister Andrews has tentatively reported at least 2 deaths as a result of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. The possibility that there may be more fatalities remains a grim reality, as movement is still highly restricted because of the fact that the gas stations are also completely destroyed. It is difficult to get fuel to even the heavy equipment operators for them to begin any clearing of the roadway. So mobility on the island itself is heavily restricted. The Met Office still has in place a marine advisory against small craft. And so although we had planned at 6 a.m. for both Coast Guard craft to depart to Carriacou, we have not been able to do so as yet because of that marine advisory. And so the Coast Guard is delayed in terms of it being able to get to Carriacou because of the marine advisory. We expect the advisory to be relooked at midday today, and if the conditions improve, then the Coast Guard will do so.
The Prime Minister also expressed gratitude to Grenadians as well as the regional and international community for volunteers in assisting islanders for their time of need. An emergency meeting of the cabinet was held last night, and a decision was taken to hold national cleanup campaign on the mainland Grenada from July 6th. Dickon Mitchell said that the situation is enormous and will require a detailed plan. A task force will be established to focus on cleaning up the island, which is about 37 square kilometers in size. The cabinet also agreed to create a task force that will conduct a detailed assessment of loss and damage as the country has suffered. Those in Grenada, let us know your thoughts. Let us know also if you are in a place where you have internet and you want to give your story to Kush News. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you guys want to leave links in the comments below on disaster relief and volunteering for cleanup and whatever else that they need in Grenada and maybe even the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, please leave the comments below and reach on out to Kush News. When we come back, we'll have today's African proverb of the day. Don't go anywhere. Hey, we are at Taste of Africa Omaha. We are out and about getting interviews as well as eating good food, drinking good drinks. And we always have heavyweight interviews. Who are you guys?
Highly spiritual. Allez, suivez le guide. Allez, suivez le MDC.
Le meilleur.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at today's African proverb of the day, and it comes to us from the Caribbean nation of Haiti. What's going on, Haiti? And it reads, "The whole of lies isn't deep." Once again, the whole of lies isn't deep. Haitian proverb. What this is referencing is that it's not too difficult to get the truth. Whether it's you're talking to somebody, whether it's your government, whether it's the news itself. To get the truth, it's not as difficult as you might think. Scandals. One evidence that we have of that is oftentimes, scandals happen even years and years later, but it's all because maybe one or two people decide to look further into, something that was said or something that was reported. And then they find out the truth. And usually it doesn't take much. All you got to do is just, ask people to tell their stories again. And usually people who are telling the truth, they don't have to remember too much because it's the truth. Versus people who are lying, they have to think about what story that they told way back when. Let me know your interpretation of today's African proverb of the day, as well as your thoughts, views, questions, comments, and concerns on the top stories. Don't forget to hit that like button. Make it your best friend. For Kush News on Kush Convos TV, I'm Ochanda. We'll see you soon.